Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. Long considered one of Britain's finest stage actors, Sir Ian McKellen, has defied the conventional wisdom that being openly homosexual could either pigeonhole you or destroy your career. In fact, since coming out during a BBC radio broadcast in 1988, Sir Ian has been knighted for his services to the theatre and gone on to become an unlikely movie star. How Ian McKellen's homosexuality boosted up his career. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you're new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Sir Ian McKellen has the kind of acting career that most can only dream about. Having spent decades honing his skills in the UK's top theatres, McKellen eventually made the jump from theatre to film with enormous success. Over a professional career that started in 1961 at the Belgrade Theatre, McKellen has portrayed all manners of heroes and villains, with a depth that few actors could hope to duplicate. Apart from his work in film, theatre and television, McKellen is a very active philanthropist who's devoted his whole life to speaking up for the marginalised. In his 80s, McKellen doesn't appear in as many projects as before, but the break from acting is completely well earned. But today let's take a look at some of the lesser-known parts of Ian McKellen's rise to stardom. In 2001, Ian McKellen put on the robe and pointed hat of a wizard named Gandalf, and won a place in the hearts of Tolkien fans worldwide. Though his role in the film adaptation of Lord of the Rings introduced him to a new audience, McKellen had a thriving career a lifetime before his visit to Middle-earth. He made his West End acting debut in 1964 in James Sanders' A Scent of Flowers, but it was in 1980 that he took Broadway by storm when he played Antonio Salieri in Peter Shaffer's Tony Award-winning play Amadeus. He has starred in over 400 plays and films, and he is that rare character, a celebrity whose distinguished political and social service has transcended his international fame to reach beyond the stage and screen. The breadth of his career, professional, personal and political, has been truly staggering. Macbeth opposite Judi Dench, Iago, King Lear, Chekhov's Sorin in The Seagull, and Beckett's Tramp Estragon opposite Patrick Stewart in Waiting for Godot. Add to all this his tireless political activism in the cause of sexual equality, and you have a veritable phenomenon. His life story has been a constantly developing drama. Ian McKellen was born on May 25, 1939 to Marjorie and Dennis McKellen, both of whom died before McKellen turned 25. His family moved to Wigan, England shortly before World War II broke out, and lived there for 10 years before moving to Bolton, where McKellen developed an interest in theatre. He got his start as a Shakespearean actor in his teens at the Bolton Little Theatre, and celebrated his 80th birthday there as a patron. In 1958, McKellen attended Cambridge University to study English, and joined the Dramatic Society while he was there, where he gained notice for his talent. By 1961 he was acting professionally, and by 1965 he had made his theatrical debut on London's famed West End in A Scent of Flowers. The actor was highly in demand for his skill with classical texts, as seen here playing Marlowe's Edward II opposite James Lawrenson. The characters had a love scene in the 1970 production, which was filmed to air on the BBC and became the first kiss between men to air on British television. At the time, McKellen was not open about being homosexual, and he recently reflected on the impact the kiss had on him and others. "I didn't do that play because I was on a mission to tell people about homosexuality, and certainly not my own. I was closeted, that's the word. I wasn't honest about my sexuality," he recalled in a BBC interview. Of course, since, I've heard from people I shall never meet saying, "I'm so grateful to you for that kiss, which I was watching in Indiana with my parents, and we had a good conversation about it afterwards, and I'm now a happily married man. So it was wonderful." His work spans genres ranging from Shakespearean and modern theatre to popular fantasy and science fiction. McKellen was appointed Commander of the Order of the British Empire, was knighted for services to the performing arts, and was made a Companion of Honour for services to drama and to equality. He made his sexual orientation known to his fellow actors early in his stage career, but he came out to the general public in a programme on BBC Radio 3. He is the co-founder of Stonewall, a LGBT rights lobby group in the United Kingdom, named after the Stonewall riots. He acted in the first of several X-Men movies as the villain Magneto, and appeared in the film adaptation of the best-selling book The Da Vinci Code. For his work in the film series, he received the Screen Actors Guild Award for Best Supporting Actor and an Academy Award nomination. Ian was born in Burnley, Lancashire. The boy's father, Dennis Murray McKellen, was a civil engineer, but he served as a lay preacher like all his ancestors. The mother, Marjorie Loy Sutcliffe, was a housewife and brought up her son and eldest daughter Jean. Ian's sister also devoted her life to the stage as an actress and manager of an amateur theatre. 2 years later, the family moved to Wigan. While the times were difficult for McKellen and his family, they weren't only about doom and gloom. The actor has described himself as a happy child who took pleasure in the small things, such as the Saturday market in his English hometown, where McKellen first caught a glimpse of his future passion in an unexpected place. "There were the first performers I saw working close to," the actor once recalled, referring to traders at his local market who dressed as characters from Greek mythology. Few had much glamour, but they had an energy, a confidence, and an optimism that lifted them beyond the shoddy they traded in. They made me want to become an actor. Soon the Second World War broke out. By the age of 4, little Ian used to fall asleep to the sound of bombing. Thus he has kept calm and composure for the rest of his life. McKellen had to sleep under a metal table which served as the protection in case of an air bombing. Later Ian said that, "Only after peace resumed did I realise that war wasn't normal." Ian McKellen was a child of war. When the boy was 12 years old, his mother died. The father married Gladys McKellen, who became one of the closest friends for the stepson. The future actor studied at Boys' Division of Bolton School after his father was relocated to this town. McKellen began acting in productions at the Boys' Division from the age of 12, encouraged by his teacher, Fred Poskett. "It is unlikely I would have got into Cambridge without his encouragement, as he got St Catherine's to accept me on a scholarship, and I read English there," McKellen said of Poskett, in Bolton School's Alumni in the Spotlight. There he began to participate in performances, and he already learned to play professionally in Cambridge. "And without Cambridge I probably wouldn't have become a professional actor, because it was then that I really took up acting," he also stated. He continued acting as part of the Marlowe Society and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in 1961. His first professional performance was also in 1961 in A Man for All Seasons at the Belgrade Theatre, Coventry. Whereas film can be edited, live performances are notoriously unpredictable. Lines get flubbed, props go missing, and entrances get bungled. McKellen called his debut unfortunate. While running to retrieve a prop after his first scene, he missed not only his second entrance, but the entire scene while his parents sat in the audience. He made his debut as an adult actor in the tragedy Henry IV, and he managed to participate in all William Shakespeare's plays during a short period of time, playing on the stage of the Royal National Theatre and the Royal Shakespeare Company. When Ian was a teenager, he realised that he did not like women. When McKellen was a little boy, he fell in love with a summer holiday friend called Wendy. They wrote each other letters for a time. They were about 10, and that was it, the last heterosexual relationship of his life. By the time McKellen was a teenager, he knew he liked men. His mother died of breast cancer around then, and he never had a chance to speak to her about it. Perhaps in Greater Manchester in the 1950s, there wasn't much that could be said. He never told his father either. The fact that both his beloved parents died without knowing this one essential fact about him remains a great regret. Having to hide his sexuality, however, turned out to be a total boon for the career. Being homosexual in those days necessitated a talent for disguise, and McKellen found in acting a profession that rewarded this talent. He appeared in plays as an undergraduate at Cambridge, correctly sensing, he once said, that this was where he would get to meet the college's other queers, and later as a graduate he got a job in regional theatre in Coventry. He was asked whether he was somebody who fell in love often when he was young, and in answering, McKellen sings a snatch of song from a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. You know that lyric in South Pacific? You may see a stranger across a crowded room, and somehow you'll know even then that somewhere you'll see them again and again. Well, I recognised that feeling, but no, I don't think I was forever falling in love. Early on in life I lived with people in what would now be called a marriage, I suppose, monogamously, and that suited me very well, so I wasn't always on the lookout. I didn't need to be. Officially, the actor announced that he belonged to sexual minorities in 1988. Later, he admitted that he regretted that he did not dare to make this public announcement earlier, since he stopped hiding the secret. He freed himself and achieved much more success as a professional. Ian McKellen is the first homosexual to be knighted. The actor's first partner was the teacher of history from Bolton, Brian Taylor. Their love affair began in 1964 and lasted 8 years. Later, Ian had a relationship and then he lived together with the British director Sean Matthias. They met at the Edinburgh Festival and were together for 10 years. They broke up after Sean began to be too jealous of the success of his partner, whose career was on the rise. However, the former lovers kept friendly relations. In 2009, Sean invited Ian to play in Waiting for Godot. There were rumours about McKellen's love affair with his best friend, Patrick Stewart. The reason for such a gossip was the meeting of friends at an event dedicated to Mr. Holmes' London premiere. When they approached each other, the men hugged tightly and kissed. However, Patrick married singer Sunny Ozell in 2013. The marriage ceremony was held by Ian McKellen. Nowadays, the actor openly communicates with journalists, and he is ready to talk on various topics, but he reluctantly talks about his personal life because it affects the interests of other people. He actively expresses his position and fights for the rights of sexual and gender minorities. He initiated an open letter to Russian President Vladimir Putin with an appeal to repeal the law banning homosexual propaganda, and called Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin a coward for refusing to hold a pride parade in Moscow. Ian McKellen was invited to shooting in the late 1960s. He participated in many Shakespeare film adaptations and in military historical movies like the epic film Alfred the Great. Later, the actor began to play in films of other genres, such as the adventure film The Scarlet Pimpernel, the melodrama Plenty, the thriller Windmills of the Gods. Ian became famous outside the UK in the 1990s thanks to roles in Hollywood blockbusters, but his big breakthrough came already in the 21st century. At first he played the role of the supervillain Magneto in the screen version of the comic book X-Men, and soon appeared as the magician Gandalf in John Tolkien's epic film The Lord of the Rings, directed by Peter Jackson. Later, the actor got the same role in the prequel The Hobbit. With a career as long and diverse as Ian McKellen's, you might think the actor has exhausted every possibility for self-expression the medium would allow, but like any other actor, no matter how successful, there are roles that passed McKellen by, much to his regret. One such part was the role of Kenneth Halliwell in 1987's Prick Up Your Ears. The movie is considered one of the most important British films of its decade. It tells the story of celebrated playwright Joe Orton, Gary Oldman, and his complex history with his mentor, lover, and finally rival, Kenneth Halliwell. After McKellen passed on the part, the role eventually went to Alfred Molina. The film garnered critical acclaim, and the lead performances from Oldman and Molina came in for special praise, with Roger Ebert declaring them two of the best performances of the year. For his part, McKellen admitted that his reason for turning down Halliwell's role was more a matter of personal exhaustion than professional disinterest. "I needed a holiday," he explained to Larry King. "I'd been working so hard, so I just kept saying, No, no, no. But when I saw the film, I really regretted not having done it. In the late 1980s of the 20th century, Ian almost refrained from meat, but he did not become a vegetarian. Although since childhood he grew up in a religious atmosphere, later the actor became an atheist. In 2006 he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, but a few years later the actor wrote in the blog that there was nothing to worry about. You may think about why is it that actors can go on and on into their 80s and even 90s, when artists in other disciplines tend to fade away earlier. It's the nature of the job that allows us to carry on, I think, rather than the nature of the people we are. Don't forget, actors are only the conduit, not the source. So we're not, as a writer would be, as a composer, as a painter, having to reimagine the world around us or within us. We are presented with the material, and then we just have to bring it to life. Some actors retire, but usually because they can't learn the lines anymore. That hasn't been the case for me, fortunately, at the moment. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Tab Hunter was unfortunately not as lucky as Ian McKellen. Nobody said that Hollywood is an easy place. Watch this video for the details. Why was Tab Hunter's career almost ruined by his own agent?